What's going on, guys? This is Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ back in for another great episode. In today's episode, we're talking about year two running backs. We're going to be breaking them down, ranking them, the pros and cons, possible breakout candidates, and possible duds. So I don't want to waste any more time. So let's get right into the episode. So we are here to break down the year two running backs. This is my 1 through 8 running back rankings. Now, I'm only doing 8 because obviously these 8 are only the fantasy relevant guys that have potential to be inside the top 8, inside the top 10 going into next season. So we want to start off with Jonathan Taylor, man. Jonathan Taylor finishing at RB6 is amazing. I'm glad free JT was actually heard. Frank Wright got out of his feelings and actually wanted to participate in the free JT, stand. So I definitely feel like we had to be patient with him. Patience is key with these rookies, and I definitely think it was worth the wait with Jonathan Taylor. Even grabbing him in the third round, I still feel great about it. I grabbed him at 306 in most of my fantasy leagues, and I definitely feel like 306 was fair, and I definitely think I got my bang for my buck. He finished as a strong RB2 for my team, and I definitely think next year he's going in the late first round or even the mid first round. He's definitely going to be one of the first year two running backs off the board. Now, I do have some questions of who's the quarterback. Now, I don't want to go crazy in depth and do all these scenarios of who possibly can be the quarterback, but it will rely on me feeling comfortable taking him that early in the first round. I still will take him in the first round late, depending on who the quarterback is, but I need a quarterback that will be able to move that offense, who will be able to move the ball to set JT up for more scoring opportunities. So I definitely think this will rely on who the quarterback is, if they bring in a veteran, if they draft one, etc. However the case may be, who comes in. I definitely will have that question on my heart, and I don't think it will affect my decision-making on, if I'll take him in the first round. But I definitely would like to feel safe, comfortable, all around 100% confident in taking him in the first round, early first round, or in the late first round. So I definitely think that will play a factor. Now, you're probably thinking about Nyheim Hines. I definitely think they both can exist in their universes. I don't think, one hurts the other. Nyheim Hines is the pass catching back. He did get a lot of red zone touches as well. But JT in his own, he is the pure runner. He also showed that he can catch the ball as well. 39 targets, 36 catches, which is very impressive. If you give him the job, he can do it. Not saying he's probably going to see, 60 to 70 targets next season, being that he had such a great ratio. But that is Nyheim Hines' lane. That is Nyheim Hines' job. So I don't expect anything more than that. But with JT finishing at RB6, I definitely think he could repeat or do better next season with the same opportunity with max touches. 15 to 20 touches a game is where I'm leaning towards going into year two. So he should be your stud at RB1. At number 2, I have Cam Akers. I think this is a solid spot for Cam Akers with the Rams showing interest. They want the ball in his hands at all costs. The playoffs is really where we saw Cam Akers come into shape to be the clear lead back, to be the RB1. We didn't really see much of Malcolm Brown. We didn't see much of Darrell Henderson. All we saw was Cam Akers, and the Rams showed interest that they want to make him the RB1 in the lead back, which pushed his stock up of where I want to take him in the draft. His ADP right now, I feel like, is at the end of the third round, which is fair to me right now, but I'm pretty sure that's soon to be rising, being that we saw the Rams throw a wildcat back there. We saw him go crazy in the playoffs, and I definitely think, what he did to the Seahawks should stamp what can happen every game with Cam Akers with 20 plus touches. So I definitely think, Henderson still will be involved. He's definitely the handcuff. Cam Akers and Henderson have shown signs of having injury problems soon. This is the second year of Henderson, where he had to face injuries and miss games, et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely think if you grab Cam Akers in the third round, you should definitely grab Henderson in that 8th, 9th round, where I think he should be sitting and living and breathing. So definitely think you need to keep in mind that Henderson is probably going to be the red zone back. Even with Cam Akers being the pure runner in the third round back, you would think he would get all the max touches there, but the scoring opportunities may be split between Henderson and Cam Akers because we saw Henderson eat, live, and breathe in the red zone, which is a great, 1-2 punch between him and Cam Akers. So I definitely think they can coexist, but I definitely think it'll be a 60-40 split, between the two, with Cam Akers being the lead back. But we shall see how all this pans out in training camp. I definitely think he is a justified second running back, going in year two on my rankings right now. And I'm saying to the moon, fellas, with Cam Akers. I'm buying all of Cam Akers where I can. Now, Mr. RKO out of nowhere, James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I definitely think, this undrafted rookie showed up and showed out. He was a couple yards, not a couple yards, probably like 100-something yards away, from breaking the record for an undrafted rookie, hitting over 1,000 yards. I definitely think, James Robinson going into year 2 is sitting strong, sitting basically right under JT, if you ask me. But we have to see what happens with Urban Meyer going there. I definitely think they don't have a true, wide receiver 1 right now. I don't think, we could bank on, giving Trevor Lawrence, to the moon yet, just because, he has his rookie height coming in. We just don't know what's going to happen. We just don't know what's going to happen with the QB situation. I definitely think he needs help. I definitely think in year 2, we should see another James Robinson 2.0, probably finishing at RB7 between RB10. I don't think he ascends any higher if that offense stays the same, but I do feel like he does offer some, PPR value, catching balls out of the backfield. He looked all around as a good running back with 60 targets, and I definitely think the Jags offensively just need help all around for them to actually start winning some games. So when it comes to scoring opportunity, I definitely think he's there. I definitely think he can help you week to week. I definitely hope and pray that, James Robinson gives us our bang for a buck, being that he's probably going in the late second round. Could see 60 to 65 targets out of the backfield, which could be impressive, which could be something that he can just live and breathe there. And I definitely think that, with that offense lacking the true number 1 wide receiver, I definitely think James Robinson's probably the best player on that team. So going into year 2, we can only hope and pray we get our bang for our buck, drafting James Robinson probably in that late second round. You know what I mean? And I definitely think his stock rises, the more help they bring in, the more, wide receiver help they bring in, O-line, et cetera, even helping that defense. Overall, you build the team, with these high draft picks, and you invest with all this salary cap to make the team better going into the next season. So I think James Robinson needs all the help he can get to actually have those scoring opportunities and ascend above RB7 and possibly into the top 5 if he could. Now, next up, I got DAndre Swift. You're all probably thinking, man, Swift is so low. Why is Swift so low? This and this and that. But I feel like we need to wait and see what happens. I don't think it's all bad for DAndre Swift. I know Goff coming there doesn't really affect him in a negative way. I honestly think it helps him. You know what I mean? With Goff coming there, I think that coaching staff understands the less time that Goff has the ball in his hand, the more, efficient that offense and how that offense can move. So that's a lot of checkdowns, the Swift that I can see happening. Now, Anthony Lynn is now the offensive coach there. I definitely love it. I definitely think, this may be a Kieran Johnson revamp, because we've seen what, Lynn did with Eckler and Gordon. And then we honestly need to respect that, because if you think about it, 2019, we had Eckler finish RB4 and Gordon, being that he was holding out, he still finished RB23, which is great. Now, 2018, Melvin Gordon finished RB8. Eckler finished RB25. So it looked like they switched or whatever the case may be. But that RB1 always eats. He always gets his shine. He always figures a way out. So I definitely think Anthony Lynn is going to use and abuse Swift. And I definitely think he's going to use him his best ability. So I don't think that Swift is going to take a huge hit that everybody thinks, being that Matthew Stafford's not there. I don't understand that logic of why Matthew Stafford made, DAndre Swift, great. I feel like there's so much scoring opportunity, so much ability for him to be a solid low-end RB1. I definitely think, his draft stock is going to rise once we get a bigger picture of, who the Lions acquire through the draft, how training camp goes. And I definitely think they're going to probably bring in, a second running back, but I don't think it'll be too much to where they can't coexist either. So the 1-2 punch is definitely something that Anthony Lynn is probably going to instill into that offense. And that's definitely something worth noting for, DAndre Swift. So I definitely don't understand the, DAndre Swift guys that are scared to draft him, who are saying, he's probably going to take a hit. He's probably going to be a bust, et cetera, et cetera. But year 2, I'm looking forward to having DAndre Swift on some of my rosters. I'm not too scared about, Goff being there, Anthony Lynn being there, and et cetera, et cetera. But I want to keep in mind, Boston Scott would be a nice little 1-2 punch with DAndre Swift. So if they can scoop him up from the Eagles, or the Eagles don't re-sign him, I definitely think, Boston Scott and Detroit definitely helps DAndre Swift in that offense in general. That 1-2 punch, I definitely want all parts of. So it could easily be, Swift as the Eckler and, Boston Scott as the Gordon, where, they finish, within the top 25, the top 10, maybe top 5. Who knows? DAndre Swift has the potential to the moon, and I definitely think he should be rostered. I don't think you should be that scared to roster him just because of Jared Goff. Now, this next one, J.K. Dobbins, scares me a little bit. Not saying he scares me enough to where I'm not going to draft him, but I won't be upset if I miss out on him. Let's just say that. Now, he finished RB23, and he's in a run-first offense, which is great, but a lot is depending right now. His ADP is probably in the 3rd round right now. I would say that if it's fair. He's a nice little RB2, but to be honest, it scares me if Gus Edwards returns back to the team, if he signs. Now, we're looking at basically if Gus signs again, we're looking at J.K. Dobbins' potential ceiling, to be a top 20 or, maybe a top 25 running back, being that he's on a run-first offense, being that in reality, Lamar Jackson is basically the RB1. So whoever gets that RB1 is basically the RB2. And then in this case, J.K. Dobbins was the RB3 in this case. So I definitely think, we want J.K. to get max touches, but it's just not reality being the offense that he's in. So I definitely think he has more scoring opportunity. I definitely think he's more effective in the red zone. I definitely think, J.K. Dobbins get more involved in the passing game as well. Just a lot of things that can happen with J.K. Dobbins because he really kicked up mid to late season. But we got to be honest with ourselves. Is he going to be a running back that gets max touches? Is he going to be a running back that only gets 10 touches? So that will make a huge gap in my decision on drafting him in the 3rd round or drafting him in the 4th round. That's just my big deal on J.K. Dobbins. So I just need to have more understanding. It's a little early right now if Gus Edwards is returning because he's a very talented back that deserves max touches. But it's just not reality, man, when you have Lamar Jackson and that offense as, a problem or holding you back. I'm not saying a problem, actually holding you back. Actually, that could be the problem while they're not winning games and taking it all the way to the Super Bowl. So there's something that needs to give in that offense. Something needs to change for them to be able to make it to that next step and go to the big dance. So now next up is my guy, Antonio Gibson, man. I definitely feel like he could have been an easy RB10 or easy RB9, being that he had to face injury, which kind of held him back. Now, he's only having a 43% snap opportunity, which is crazy to me. Putting up 11 touchdowns, tied with Jonathan Taylor, which could have easily put him inside the top 10 if he just played more games and not dealt with that injury, unfortunately. But he's an easy, safe bet. 20-touch running back that's probably going to go in the 4th or 5th round. So I definitely feel like you're getting a steal with Antonio Gibson. So you're probably wondering why I have him this low in the rankings. It's because Washington needs help in all areas, people. They need a quarterback. They need another wide receiver to help, Scary Terry. And I definitely think there's a lot of red flags of why I don't want to touch Antonio Gibson that high in the draft, like 3rd or 2nd round, even though he's a running back that's liable to get you 20 touches a game, which is max touches to me. You know what I mean? And I definitely feel like with him only having the 43% snap opportunity, I definitely think that number rises, being that he's the pure runner. He's very explosive. He went crazy against Dallas, and I definitely think he's a stud in that offense, and I just really feel like, Washington needs to go out and get that help. Go get that Allen Robinson, man. I'm telling you, get Allen Robinson. That offense is set. You get a quarterback that's a stud other than Alex Smith. They just signed Taylor Heineke, which is cool, which is dope, but I don't think he's the, long-term or even the short-term answer for you guys to actually make playoffs and make shit happen and make noise. But I definitely think, Gibson is going to have a great, impressive second year. I think he's probably the safest, out of all of these guys if they go get another wide receiver and actually bring in, a stud quarterback. So we shall see what happens with Antonio Gibson. I'm looking forward to his second year. I know I'm drafting him. I know I'm getting all parts, all smoke with Antonio Gibson once again, because I was very, happy with, his performance that I got his rookie year, being that he was my RB3, RB4. You know what I mean? Nobody really believed in the hype. Everybody's talking about guys. Look what happened there. Everybody's talking about AP. Look what happened there. So therefore, Antonio Gibson was to the moon, fellas. So I'm looking for that in year 2. Now on to CEH, man. Very disappointing, being that he was a late 1st round pick and finished RB22. A lot of people are thinking, hey, that's not bad. It is when you invest that high on a running back, that's on a high power offense. You're probably thinking, hey, man, it wasn't his fault. Kansas City likes to throw the ball a lot. Even when they get in the red zone, they throw the ball, blah, 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 blah. I don't put the blame on Kansas City. I put the blame on you, drafting him so high. So it's kind of like you got the egg on your face at this point, but it is what it is. So let's talk about year 2. Year 2, he should be drafted as an RB3 or a low-end RB2, which RB3 to me is basically flex position, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think you go anything beyond that. I don't think you go that high on it, man. His goal line, which is basically the, scoring opportunity, he's not a goal line back. So therefore, you're slim to none there. In the red zone, he has opportunity to, bust off and break a couple of tackles and end up in the end zone. So there's a touchdown there, but not likely. You know what I mean? It's not happening with the Kansas City offense, being that they throw the ball so heavily. So his goal line stat, if you would like to know, is 7 attempts, -3 yards, 0 touchdowns. So that's not something I like having on my roster as my RB1 or even my RB2, and they're not really bringing in points. And then there's multiple games where he has less than 8 points, less than 5 points. And this is not something I need on my roster or have in my starting lineup come Sundays, because these are the guys that sink the ship. These are the guys that belong on your bench, you know what I mean, that I don't really think you should be investing this high on. So CEH, being that, he's so low on this ranking, it fits perfect. Even though arguably he has probably one of the best offenses that he's on, that he's involved with. So my man went 7 weeks after putting up 167, basically 7 weeks without a 100-yard game. And then 2 of those 7 weeks, he didn't go over 50 yards. So that's a problem, people. I definitely think we need to reevaluate how much we value CEH. You got to stop living off the names. You got to stop living off the hype trains and just accept what it is in the situation. We have to be realistic. We all know Patty Mahomes loves throwing the rock. We all know that offense is a high-power offense that gives you scoring opportunities, but most of those scoring opportunities inside the red zone are them throwing the ball to Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, whoever the case may be. It's not exactly an offense where they get in the red zone and they shove it to their running back and they push the ball in. It's just not reality of how CEH is going to be used. So I definitely think they bring in another running back. I definitely think, with Damian Williams on the return, which I believe he's returning next season. So I definitely feel like, he plays a part. We might see, CEH value decreases once we get confirmation Damian Williams is returning back, because he opted out because of COVID. So who knows what this season would have looked like if he played. So man, oh man, oh man. This is something to keep my eye on. This is something that, I need to really evaluate come draft day if CEH is even touchable for me. Because me, honestly, like I said, I don't ride the hype train, so I really don't know if CEH ends up on my roster. I would give that headache to somebody else, and I'll be living scot-free with Antonio Gibson, or I'll be living scot-free being that I got Jonathan Taylor or Cam Akers and etc. I'll get those other, year 2 running backs, or I might end up getting a rookie this season, over a CEH. So we shall see what happens. So that's basically it on CEH. So just buyer beware when it comes to him. So next up, last but certainly not least, man, A.J. Dillon, man. I really feel like he has the potential to break out next season with the opportunity with Aaron Jones probably hitting free agency, finding his way on a new team. He's possibly going to be taking splits with Jamal Williams, but I'm not too worried about that. This is still opportunity for A.J. Dillon to break out. Now, Jamal Williams will probably be taking splits, but he can barely stay healthy with the limited role he has. But I was very, very happy to see A.J. Dillon get that 124 yards, 2 touchdowns on 20 touches, people. I definitely think this is something that we could possibly see week to week if, they don't go out in free agency, go get another guy, Leonard Fournette, or, another running back that probably doesn't need to be there, Adrian Peterson. Please, God, not AP. But anyway, I definitely feel like A.J. Dillon has the potential to be one of those late round, guys that you'll get who has opportunity to see between 15 and 20 touches. So I definitely want all parts of A.J. Dillon if Aaron Jones is out of Green Bay. So if Aaron Jones ends up resigning, then obviously, A.J. Dillon is finding his way back and later in the rounds, probably like the 10th, 11th rounder, et cetera, et cetera. But I do not think Aaron Jones will be returning. I'm like 91% sure that, we are out of, the Aaron Jones era of him coming back to Green Bay. So I definitely feel like A.J. Dillon's one of those guys you have to have on your roster. He's definitely he will be above CEH if we didn't have to question Aaron Jones was coming back, just to be honest, because he has the opportunity to be one of those guys. So when Aaron Jones is out of the way, I'm not waiting to the 8th round to get no A.J. Dillon. I'm taking him in the 6th or 5th round, being that he has the opportunity to have those 20 touches per game, because I'm really not worried about Jamal Williams at all. So hopefully we can hope and pray for max touches for A.J. Dillon. the quad master, the quad machine. Yes, I'm saying that over Saquon Barkley. No, I'm lying, obviously. I definitely feel like he could be a stud. He could be a breakout. RB2, low end RB2, I would say. And then flex position, obviously, if he gets those max touches, because we don't know what he looks like with a full season, a full workload just yet. So this wraps up the episode, man. I want to thank you guys for coming by. This is amazing that I'm still able to do this. I think the love and support that I'm getting on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all from the Facebook, fantasy community. I definitely want to shout you guys out because that's where I started, and you guys ascended to me where I'm at now on Instagram and Twitter and etc. But make sure you like and subscribe the video. Leave a comment below on what you guys think about the video, and I'll see you guys next week for another great episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.